All right, welcome back to the program. Still newspaper headlines on Agate TV, and we're looking at Punch. Punch has a lot of headlines to look at. But let's look at this last one before we go to the next one. FG has asked workers to register for the 40,000 naira rise. Now let's look at this. So this is targeted to at workers. How about the ordinary? The man who is not employed, what's his fate?
With our policies of federal government sometimes gets to worry me. Here is it's a government that told Nigerians that disconnected centers were being, will be announced where people can buy the rice at 40,000 naira. And here again, we are having it for the federal government asking workers to register for it. So it's not just about every other Nigerian that is feeling the fangs of hardship, the fangs of the rising inflation, food inflation. Nigerians are not able to afford basic, everyday staple food to eat. The federal government talked about its policy of bringing rice to 40,000 naira. Centers will be announced for people to buy. And here again, you're asking workers to register for it. So it's not about all Nigerians. It's not about the poorest of the poor. So how about the person that is not working? And what is the process for the registration?
That's the question.
Where can people register? What is the timeline between what and what time will the people register to have access to the 40,000 naira rice? Federal government also signed 70,000 naira minimum wage. Have they started implementing it? Because President Tinubu has assented to the law already. Has it come into effect? Because as far as I'm concerned, if that new wage did not come into effect, the current wage has been paid. It's not every worker that will even afford the 40,000 naira to buy a bag of rice. So government should be sincere for once in its approach to addressing the hardship we are facing. Because if you say register for 40,000 naira rice, how? Where? And at what time? This is a lot of inconsistencies in what the federal government has been telling Nigerians. So we shouldn't be taken for a ride for too long. The president did acknowledge in his broadcast that there is hardship and all of this. But what is the conscious effort to mitigate the hardship Nigerians are passing through?
Terry, have you found any location where this 40,000 naira rice is being sold, particularly in Benue State? Let's start with the
million dollar question, which if the exchange rate you used to convert it, that's $1.6 billion question. I would like to deviate a little bit from Nongo and say at least we now have an idea of those who may have an idea of where to get the rice. Beautiful policies on paper still need a clarity and a definite map of how it will be executed. Okay, workers should register for the rice. I know it's not going to get to everyone because workers are just a portion of the populace, but a lot of workers also have dependents. So at least that is where I said I would deviate from long. At least that is a start. But beyond this start, we don't want all these bottlenecks. Register. So when would the rice be available? You know the workers already. If you are referring to government workers, you already have the data. You don't need to start asking them stories. You can even give them the rice and deduct from the salary. Or perhaps maybe they would want to say those who are interested, because believe me, there are some workers who may not want to buy the rice. There are some who are rice farmers. And then, of course, there is the issue of besides the workers. I mean, there are a lot of people like those who climb the armored personnel carrier. They are not workers, and they form the majority of the protesters. So how do you get the rights to this agitating crowd? Because, like you rightly pointed out, no civil servant will be seen on the street protesting. So even if you appease them, you have not settled the protesters. So where is this rice going to be sold? If I had the answer to that question, I'll be a very rich person at this point in time.
But the other question is the new minimum wage not made a point. The new minimum wage has not been implemented. For those on the lower cadre of the employment, their minimum wage is 30. The minimum wage now is 30,000 naira.
Mm.
So you're selling rice at 40,000, and those people at the lower rank might sure be interested. So you're paying them 30,000 naira and you're selling rice at 40,000 naira. So if they register, where are they going to get the 10,000?
That's where adashi comes in. Or we have teamwork where we have two persons earning 30,000 naira coming together to buy the rice and even do business.
Okay.
You know?
It also worries me that you just say blindly workers when you know for sure that we have categories of those workers who are public workers and those who are private workers. So all of us are just going to register. Are we going to register online, or are they going to open centers where we can file in a queue and get to register? There should be some level
That's
of clarity.
another thing. Let's go to the Vanguard newspaper. The Vanguard newspaper has taken a different dimension on the protests, as looking at what Nigeria has lost in the last 5 days that the protest has lasted. Kaduna Zaria boy, over 700 billion naira lost in 5 days. Asban and Kasima making the statement. The writer says, count losses as Kasima and Asban count losses as protests become violent in Kaduna. Zaria continues in Lagos, Abuja, Kano, Jos, Benin. Rescue Nigerians. Now protesters with Russian flags beg Putin in Zamfara. A Russia not party to flags flown during protests as embassy. Tinubu security chiefs meet. Police arrest 31 for distributing, producing Russian flags in Kano, Kaduna, Jigawa, and others. Before we go to other part of this story, it is interesting how Nigerians are a bit creative. The man who had the idea of creating the flag and a mass production tell us we're now making money out of it. So I don't know, it's just more or less to bring some kind of humor. But I was just thinking, who brought that idea? And they tell us who swung into action immediately, although some of them have been arrested. It's quite how creative Nigerians could be, but creative in the wrong direction.
That's the economy of violence. You know, while looting is going on, there are some who are making money. You see somebody, a police station was vandalized, and someone took away the signposts.
Yes.
I saw the video of the police and held it like this. And then someone was telling him in Hausa that if that is the only thing you have gotten today, just take it home in peace. And the guy, where are you going? Panteka, of course, where they sell scrap metal. And at the end of the day, you begin to wonder, while we are counting billions of losses in looting, those who sell scrap iron and those who buy second-hand things are making a killing. These tailors, it's okay. I guess that all the money they made, they should look for good lawyers, because once DSS is involved, story.
There is one, the statement in Hausa of that man who stole the signpost. Once said, if you have the strength, you should even steal a station.
Just carry the whole station.
But let's look at what we have here. Kaduna Zaria, the amount, destruction now quantified, what we have lost in the last 5 days. We have more 5 days to go, according to the protests calendar, 10 days protests. 700 billion naira lost so far.
Really?
It's more than what Tinubu said he has given to governors, 570 billion.
Yes. Well, really, the protest is going to take a toll on the economy. In the last 5 days, imagine the number of places that the protest turned violent, and businesses that must have shut down as a result of fear, and even public businesses, public and private businesses that were looted. Just imagine what was done to the Nigerian Communications Commission, soon to be commissioned industrial park in Kano. That in itself is a huge asset with billions of money lost in that. You can imagine all the facilities there looted, and even the property itself razed with fire. Really disheartening. And if the protests were going to be peaceful in a way that people can still go about their businesses, operate freely, of course, the economy may not have suffered this much. But given the violent dimension it turned, and in some places, in some states, governors even came out and declared curfew, which restricted. Imagine some states or some state metropolis, some of the economy is driven by night activities in terms of leisure, hoteliers, and people who have their businesses that are tied to night operations. But with a curfew, all that has gone down the drain because it has restricted activities and all of that. So apart from the looting itself, the curfew placed a ban within a time limit within which businesses can operate. That in itself will make some business owners count losses. And of course, you know, people who their businesses are tied to everyday income, daily income. There are some persons, because of the violence I mentioned, the protests tend to, some businesses did not open. So while the 5 days have gone, I think today is day 6 of it, there is more losses to be counted if indeed it continues the violent dimension it has taken. So for me, it is not surprising all the figures pointed out there, because just 1 day of businesses not opening could amount to a huge loss, banks and all this. So we hope the violent aspect of it should be tamed in such a way that we don't continue to count more of the losses and the looting, as well as destruction, vandalism being caused on public facilities. Imagine the money it would take government and even private owners to put these structures back in place. It's really unquantifiable.
Tavia, another narrative that I heard, I read on social media, when somebody posted that the Kano library was actually burgled and looted. Of all the things that was looted, nobody picked a book.
Not surprised. I'm not surprised, because, like you rightly pointed out in the video from of the young men on the armored personnel carrier, the protests in certain quarters, you could see that the I don't want to use certain adjectives, but the type of people who were protesting, you could see that are people who feel like they have nothing to lose. And a nation that does not value knowledge would definitely have challenges. Now, first of all, someone who would loot a book will not vandalize a library. No, they would not. So the fact that you are going to vandalize a library means you have no value for books. So we should not be surprised if they decided not to take along any book at all.
Okay, let's go to the next paper. But before that, I always like taking the Mr. and Mrs. on the Vanguard. And it says, the Mr. is talking now. What's my scene? 10 university undergraduates screamed for help, and I responded. Those girls were almost drowned. Their compound was flooded. And the Mrs. said, well done, knight in shining armor. One day, the result of your compound interest will come out. But anyway, let's go to the next paper, and that is The Nation. The Nation newspaper says, businesses open in peaceful Lagos, bank looting in Kaduna. Bank looting in Kaduna, okay? That's almost the same thing. So it's cheering news that businesses have resumed in Lagos. And it's also cheering news to state here that Benue is peaceful, no protests at the moment. So while that part of the country is protesting, Benue is not protesting as well. So, but that doesn't mean that there's no hunger in Benue, yeah? There's hunger as well. So the at bottom, just below the nameplate, you have 14 banks key into a consumer credit scheme. And NCC above the nameplate, NCC asks telcos to simplify tariff plans, bundles others. At the moment, I don't even know which plan my phone is on, because sometimes I recharge and just one call and the whole unit is gone. Bob Risky advises Nigerians. What a hard way to learn, yeah? So flying foreign country's flag, treasonable, CDS ones. Okay, now which one do you pick from here? No.
Well, I think the Nigerian Communications Commission asking telecom operators to simplify tariffs and bundle plans is really something cheering, because with the hardship that is rising, economic hardship, Nigerians' lives are driven largely by telecommunications, from handsets, gadgets to
Yeah. And that's why we say in all thy having,
yes.
have data.
So you see,
Data is life.
in the thick of all the hardship, telecommunication companies seem to be still exploiting. Just permit me to use that word, exploiting, because sometimes you recharge your phone, you can imagine you have made just one call, and the next call you are being warned 1 minute remaining or so. Even the bundle, the data, the cost of data itself is a serious concern. And amidst the growing protests, how the telecommunication companies, some of the telecom service providers were even blocking or barring lines, was another issue for concern. So let the Nigerian Communication Commission, as the regulatory body, be more serious with telecom operators, so that Nigerians don't necessarily go through the same hardship of having to access telecom services through bundles, internet bundles, airtime, and all this. Because as far as we are concerned, the economy is already depressed. So at least there should be some concessions that telecommunication companies could give to subscribers to allow them some leeway to operate unhindered. So I think the regulatory body should look more decisively into that.
You have a different opinion.
Oh, well, it's like I humorously said, in all they are getting, in all they are having, have data. It's a funny remark that Nigerians are fond of making, but it's true. Sometimes in the midst of all the tension in the society, the hardship, people go online just to, look for an excuse to make themselves laugh. I understand also that the telecoms companies have to make a profit. MTN declared the record losses in their last quarterly financial report. So sometimes while we're looking at these issues from the angle of the fact that the telecoms companies seem to be exploiting, the challenging environment of operation is making it difficult for them to even break even, talk less of making a profit. So they are employing various tricks and means to be able to stay in business, including some of the challenges that as consumers we're experiencing with them. But the appeal now is that businesses should learn to have shock absorbers for downturns such as this that we have in Nigeria right now, so that in the event that we have challenges, businesses can be able to still offer services to the people at reasonable cost without having to cut corners.
Okay, that's fine. Now we have the other one here. Says 20,371 students get NEL funds at 20,000 each as monthly stipend. This is the loan for, or perhaps they call it the stipend for students. Over 20 students are getting that fund, but this is just 20,000 naira. You think this is enough? Why shouldn't this be increased? Why the minimum wage was also being increased? Because the same 20,000 is, the students are also going to buy something in the market. You think 20,000 is enough, or they said better
Yes.
than never?
Well, the Nigeria Education Fund is piloting that. The Tinubu government came up with what it calls students' loan. I don't know if the 20,000 naira stipend they're talking about is the same thing as a student's loan, but it should be simplified in such a way that people get to understand it clearly. Because if is it the 20,000 naira stipend, is it the loan that the Nigerian Education Fund was talking about? With 20,000 naira fund, an average student in any level of study, be it at graduate or undergraduate level, I think basically it's the undergraduate students that are benefiting that by 20,000 naira just as a stipend. I don't think that is sufficient at all. So
I don't think there's any university that's paying school fees or tuition fee at 20,000.
Absolutely. So if, I don't know, whether the loan for the education the Nigeria Education Loan Fund itself is different from the stipend they are giving. But the 20,000 students, how did they arrive at that? That's just an insignificant number. An average university have a population of students far higher than that. So if it is 20,371 students as stated there, it's grossly inadequate. Because even in Benue State here, if you go to the Benue State University campus, the number of students, undergraduate alone, is far more than that. So an entire country, I don't think that is sufficient. So maybe the NEL fund will explain that better for Nigerians to understand really what the policy is.
After spending many nights in detention, Bobrisky is out. Nigerians don't spray money anyhow.
He's an apostle of civility now. He's an apostle of civility.
Don't spray anyhow.
No, don't spray anyhow.
I know. I will tell you the story later.
His eyes have seen Shege. And in prison, he will finally confirm his gender.
It's okay, but that is a hard way of learning. But it's another way. Maybe he'll come out now and become a very, what they call it, inspirational speaker. Tell people, don't spray anyhow.
Don't be surprised if he becomes an evangelist.
Daily Trust is carrying similar story. Tinubu orders crackdown on protesters. Waving Russian flag is treason, defense chief warns. And military takes over as Bangladesh PM flees country. So you can see that what is happening in Bangladesh. It's not. It should be a dangerous sign to some of those countries. Many protests in. I think also saw a protest in UK and some parts of. But their own is, of course, when they say it's peaceful, it's peaceful. There's no way you can doubt it. But it's like we interpret opposite.
Well, relatively peaceful. Because, yes, relatively peaceful. What do you mean by peaceful? When cars were burnt and people were assaulted. You see, this is about narrative control. This is the job we do. It's about narrative control. If that protest were to happen somewhere in Africa, any other country outside of the Western capitals, it would have at this stage been referred to as a violent protest. But they are okay, if it is peaceful, why is Australia giving travel advisory to their citizens not to travel to the UK?
Well, maybe they've not experienced that for a long time. So. But that is FG issues travel advisory, okay, to Nigerians visiting UK, telling you that it's not okay yet. So don't go there.
But could it be a pot calling kettle black? Because you, Nigeria, you have your own protests on your own hands back in the country. And the same thing is happening in the UK. So between UK and Nigeria, who should issue advice to who?
It's just like throwing banters to each other.
Yeah. Okay. Just banter.
When it was happening in Nigeria, UK did the same thing.
So now
the little one they have there, let us pay you back.
See how they be.
So, of course, data issue is also coming up here. Data depletion. NCC orders telcos to make... they need to work on that seriously. Let's go to the New Telegraph. The New Telegraph, of course, is not also saying different thing from what other papers are saying. We will defend democracy, says CDS, as Tinubu security chiefs meet over hardship protests. If they are meeting, what are they going to say? Do you have an idea of what they'll be saying?
Well, definitely.
What say?
Definitely, it will be to re-strategize, and I can sense that beginning from today, some of the protesters or the hot spots of violent protests might begin to see a tougher crackdown. Because I've also seen videos where members of the Nigerian army or members of our security forces, let me not single out any unit, were giving pure water to, sachet water to protesters. For me, that is being over professional. It's like when you had classmates in high school who would read beyond the syllabus and not pass the exam because they are wasting their resources on what they shouldn't. And then you have those who would concentrate on the notes they were giving and the syllabus and come out first. So for members of our security forces, they must also draw a line that should not be crossed. The protesters must also understand where that line is, So these kinds of high-powered meetings, I believe more strategies will be adopted. And don't be surprised if you see certain... the federal government has not really come out with a nationwide so-called blanket policy on how to handle this protest. They have been liaising with state governments, and in some places we have witnessed successes, in others not. But I believe now the federal government will be coming out with policies to security-wise.
Okay. You made mention of a video. I saw a video where protesters climbed on the armored tank of soldiers. They were the ones saying, "Hey guys, go down."
And they were singing Sojo Jimmy Keso, and the soldiers were saying, "Go down,
Go down, go down." I have not seen, I've not seen military men this peaceful. Well, but that's to commend them.
And you must be careful when soldiers are behaving very well, because when the misbehavior comes,
when the order,
you know what I'm saying.
when the next order comes, it's not too good. Okay, the Guardian newspaper. Before we go, the Guardian newspaper says FG prioritizes NAS State House spending amid MDA's funding crisis, and you can see a graphical representation of that. Said we have released funds in our first quarter. That should be National Assembly. So much of billions there, 86 billion. Presidency Air Fleet 13, state 40 state houses, and then the total 9 trillion. When they call this money, it doesn't reflect. I think this is what is actually paining or making those guys very angry, the protesters. That they call huge money that they spent, and nothing is showing of them. Nothing is telling. It's reflecting in their lives. So when you say we have spent 2 trillion, and what the governor said, the president said he has given 570 billion to governors on something livelihood support or so.
Yes.
And if each state is taking about 15 billion, people are beginning to ask this question: is it that they spent it, or it is about to be spent?
Well, when you look at this, to the other story you spoke about, 20.
Maybe some will ask, where is the 20 trailers of rice? When is it going to be distributed? That one does not have a location.
Or workers are not going to register.
So when is it going to be
free for all, maybe?
But the last thing we take here on the Guardian newspaper is EFCC wants council chairman against mismanagement. Now EFCC is not talking to governors; it's talking straight to council chairman. Hey guys,
the beauty of financial autonomy.
You have autonomy. The money is yours.
Yes,
but our eyes are on you.
And of course, I think if EFCC has suddenly realized the need to beam their spotlight, to beam their searchlight on the council chairman, it's going to speak well a bit, because the local government as a third tier of government is one arm of government. Happens at that tier of government. The trust that tier of government earns from the people is no longer there. Why? Because of this funding challenge. Because before now, until the recent pronouncement of the Supreme Court that their funding, that is the allocations meant for the third tier of government, should go directly to them, it does appear as if the state governors were simply in charge of everything concerning the local government. And if EFCC is vowing that, look, we are going to scrutinize your activities, especially now that funding is going directly to you, then it means the local government, that as a third tier of government, the council chairman, that they really need to sit up. But again, the disappointing aspect of it is that upon the Supreme Court pronouncement, the last time we heard the Minister of Finance did telling Nigerians that proceedings of court has not been transmitted to them, so they are yet to implement the direct funding of local government chairmen. Local government council, sending their allocations to them directly. And of course, several states still have caretaker committees in place. But again, EFCC should look beyond just the council chairman, the local government as a system. It should be holistic, because state governors are not insulated from this as well. So, yes. But it's interesting that if they are vowing that we are going to scrutinize how you manage these funds, then there should be some level of transparency. Everybody will sit up. It shouldn't be business as usual. Yeah, but it shouldn't stop with the EFCC just talking tough and not biting, because sometimes the EFCC does appear like an agency that is just used to go after some political perceived enemies.
The question I'm
all
asking
that.
here is, what happens to? Is it now that the monies are being allocated to local government? What happens to the ones in the past?
That has been allocated.
What happened? Who is going to answer all the questions concerning them?
I
I think they
that-
should begin from there.
Absolutely. It should be holistic.
Yeah, they
it
should
should
begin
start with
from-
what has been happening,
Yeah.
especially maybe if you don't want to go far, start since the inception of this administration. If it is too difficult for you to
go
go
from 1999.
since 1999, start from the life of this current administration.
Okay. And that is where we have to draw the curtains for today. Most sincerely thank you, Emmanuel Charia and Nathaniel Nongo, for coming on this program. We will do this next time, hopefully this week. So be part of it. Don't forget that you can follow our news on iGate, www.iGateRadioTV.com. Get more news. Again, don't forget you can download the iGate app on Google Play Store and follow us, radio and TV. A very simple app there as well. So just go to Play Store. The name of the app is iGate News, and then you download and follow us. My name is Benjamin. See you another time. Bye-bye for now.